throw it away after I watched it. And my boy's telling me, man, when we're on mushrooms, I'm gonna talk to you about the devil's rejects. I was like, man, when we're on mushrooms, I'm gonna talk to you about God, just sarcastically, not even really thinking about what I was saying. And I'm looking at the fire, and there's this rock outside the fire pit, and it's blazing fire. And I'm turning around to tell my boy, like, yo, do you see that? And he's already made his way around. He's like, yo, Frog, you see that? So I turned around, and the rock that was on fire had gone out. It was pitch black, and in the center of it, in the center of this rock, was a white cross. So, we snapped a picture of it, didn't really think nothing of it, and we're waiting for Sky. We wait probably about another 20 minutes. When we go into town, and we're like, hey, yo, what's up, Sky? When are you gonna get here? He's like, you know what, Frog? The 5 freeway just caught on fire. I'm not gonna make it till tomorrow morning. So we head back up to the campsite. Everybody's disappointed, like, hey guys, Sky ain't gonna be here till tomorrow. Everybody's like, oh man, I wanted a shroom. That was the biggest complaint. Everybody wanted a shroom that night. Sky shows up maybe 5, 6 o'clock the next morning. Get up, start cooking breakfast, having a good time, blasting the music, get the breakfast in, and we're in the river now. We're parlaying in the river. We're chilling in the river and just partying. And somebody asks, yo, Sky, when are we gonna shroom? And Sky's like, yo, as soon as it gets dark. And I don't know if you ever seen the Roadrunner cartoon where the cloud would come over Wile E. Coyote and just kind of rain on him and then storm on him. That's what happened. There's this big mountain, and as soon as he said, yo, as soon as it gets dark, this cloud comes over, and you get thunder, lightning, rain, wind, just blowing all our campsite up. Tents are flying everywhere. The fire that was out from the night before is just like 6 feet high. Canopy flips over into the fire and catches fire, and we're at the bottom of the river, and we're like, oh man, so we're headed up camp. We've been there every year for the last 5, 6 years. Never have we had a storm like that. Start clamping the tents down, getting all the pitches in it and everything, getting everything situated, pull the canopy out of the fire, put the fire out, and then everything's kind of relaxed, and all you feel is like a light drizzle on your skin. But everybody's still nervous because there was just lightning and thunder, so no one wants to go back in the river. So somebody says, like, yo, what are we gonna do now? And Sky's like, we're gonna shroom. Now, mind you, the 2 people that we were with, my boy that got hit in the eye and his wife, they were believers at the time. They were Christians, and they didn't know that we had planned to do that. So they were kind of hesitant and upset, to even be around us. And his wife comes up and says, you know what, Frog, like, we didn't really know you guys were gonna do this, but we're gonna hang out here. We'll pray for you guys. We'll make sure I'll keep an eye out for you guys. Make sure that if anybody has a bad experience, we're there to to help, and nothing goes wrong. We're here for you guys. Okay, cool. So they kind of go their own way, and the guys separate from the girls. Everybody takes their mushrooms, and we're chilling out, and Sky wants to keep talking to me about the devil, and he's like, the devil this and the devil that. And I turn around, I'm like, yo man, like, this is bigger than the devil, all this is bigger than the devil. And I sit down, and my boy Daniel comes up and sits next to me, and he goes, yo, Frog, I don't know what's wrong with you, man, but I feel like this energy around you, like this big energy, and it's just bugging me out, dude. I don't even want to sit next to you. And he kind of just walked away from me and went on his own spot, and I'm sitting there, and I hear something calling me, something's calling me, and it's the river that's talking to me. And I get up, and I start walking towards the river, and I start headed towards that river, and I get on this rock now. I thought the rock was rounded, so I could put my hand down. So I went to sit on this rock, and it was actually flat, and I fell. I fell into the river. I could hear everybody laughing at me and pointing at me. I didn't pay him no mind. I got up and kind of shook myself off, sat back down, and the river's calling me, the river's talking to me. And I'm sitting there, I'm going, man, I'm tripping out. And the river's telling me, yo, follow me, come this way. And I jump up, and without thought, I jump up and I take off running. And I'm like running from rock to rock. Where we go camping, there's these big boulders, and you just kind of jump on one from another. I was just kind of leaping everywhere. And I went to step on one, and I slipped. And when I slipped, I landed in a seated position like I was meant to be there. And I'm sitting, and I'm looking across the river, and there's these 2 trees that form a diamond like this. The branches of the trees form a diamond. And inside the center of it was this glowing pine tree. And I was sitting there just kind of awe with that. And I'm banging on this rock, and I start rhyming. I'm a rapper, so I just start rhyming. And before you know it, my rhyme turned into a prayer, and I started praying to God. And God's telling me, like, see the way. He's telling me, And all of a sudden I feel this pressure on me, like somebody's pushing me down. Like, so I look up and it's Sky, and he's like, "What's up, man? Like, what are we doing here?" And he goes to try to sit on my rock, and he can't. He's trying to sit, but he just doesn't fit right. And I'm like, "Man, you can't sit there." And he's like, "Why?" And I said, "'Cause it's my rock." He's like, "Your rock?" He's like, "Okay, so what are we doing on your rock?" And I looked up at him and I kind of told him, like, the same thing we were doing the last time we met. And he gave me this look, like he knew what I was talking about. And he jumped off the rock and he disappeared. I didn't pay him no mind. I went back to what I was doing. I was making this beat on this rock. And I start rhyming again. I start rhyming that prayer. Whatever it was, I can't even tell you what it was. I just know it was a prayer to God. And I was praying. And he's telling me, "See the way. See the way." I keep hearing that in my head. And I'm like, "See the way." And I finally get what he's telling me. He's trying to get me into the river. He's calling me into the river. And I'm thinking in my head, man, I'm really tripping. I'm tripping out. Like, this stuff is good. And I get up and I start walking towards the river. And there's this big boulder in the middle of the river. And it's a Category 4 river, which is one of the biggest that it can, that's one of the highest that it can possibly white water. And it's just splashing on the rock. And there's just 2 other rocks on the side of it. It looked like a big giant as you're climbing on it. He's telling me, "See the way." Now, mind you, it had just rained. So inside the water was all muggy from the mud that had dropped off and had washed through the rain. And I'm looking at the river, and all of a sudden the mud starts separating from the water. And the water becomes crystal clear. And there's these boulders, these rocks, these stepping stones that were covered in algae and green. And all of a sudden the algae and the greenness starts fading away and they become glowing, vivid white rocks. And there's steps to that rock that he wants me to climb to. So I take those steps out to that rock, and I sit down and I start looking at everything. That glowing pine tree, the river is crystal clear, the rocks are glowing white, and everything